Prime XPT is the most powerful trading platform offering immediate access to over 30 assets. Trade cryptocurrencies, forex, commodities, stock indices, and much more, all from a single Bitcoin settled account. Visit the link below and start trading on Prime XPT in minutes.
Birb Network is an interoperable DeFi ecosystem offering token pre-sales, staking as a service, project incubation, and much more. Visit thebirbnest.com/Birb. Globe is an upcoming crypto derivatives exchange offering up to 100 times leverage on crypto and DeFi perpetual contracts. Sign up for early rewards at thebirbnest.com/Globe. Radix is the first Layer 1 protocol built specifically to serve DeFi. More information at thebirbnest.com/Radix. YFDAI is democratizing finance by creating the most secure, transparent, and user-friendly ecosystem of DeFi products. To learn more, visit thebirbnest.com/YFDAI.
Okay, everybody, it's Adrian Cryptoverse speaking here, and this is one of the shows for the final day of our virtual 14-day free trading congress. Everybody, it's my pleasure to welcome each and every single one of you who are watching that via our YouTube platform or directly on Twitter. I'm very happy because today I'm joined in a very special forum by very special guests, and this is going to be quite a different format than what you've already seen so far, because we are going to make a panel. We're going to make it a panel discussion, and we're going to discuss decentralized versus centralized finance and the approach of DeFi and CeFi, towards different challenges, adoption, and future that we have and that we need to kind of like just fight and tackle right now, especially after this post-pandemic period. Because this is not a question. We're going to have many challenges right now. There are definitely like big trends and tendencies globally going on in support of digital currencies, digital payment solutions, and this comes with different issues, with different problems, with adoption. Not many people would ever just want to drop out of cash, just so easily. They would love the cash. So that's all combined, the full picture that we're going to cover in a form of a panel discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm today joined by, as I said, very special guests for a couple of reasons. It's not only kind of like a very interesting, it's not going to be fight, but just like a very intriguing discussion between the centralized world and decentralized world, but very big projects, very big worldwide established companies are going to be represented here. Just to name a few: Linear Finance. We're going to discuss also with Cream Finance, with Umbrella Network, and Elavon on the centralized side, one of the biggest payment solution processor. So, ladies and gentlemen, how about we just give it a go and be very brief stage to each of our guests to discuss and to introduce themselves very briefly for better understanding for our audience. Leo, shall we start with you?
I'm here with Cream Finance. So we are a decentralized lending protocol enabling individuals and institutions access to financial services through our smart contracts. We are part of the Yearn ecosystem, focusing on the lending products, and we're currently launched on Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Phantom, and looking to also launch across other chains. Good to see everybody here. And Sam, long time no see, man.
Yeah. Sam, would you like to take it?
Yeah. First, what's up, Leo? Good to see you again. This is Sam, founding partner at Umbrella Network. Umbrella is a fully decentralized, community-owned layer 2 oracle. So for us, that means two main things. One, we believe that data is critically important infrastructure for the DeFi ecosystem, and therefore we believe the best way to provide the security necessary is to put it into the hands of the community. And therefore, when we decentralize and put the power into the hands of the community. The second thing is that we are, as a layer 2 provider, we are the low-cost data provider in the industry. And therefore, we have the most comprehensive data set in the market and available at the lowest cost. And so those are two primary pillars. And I'm really excited to be here today talking about the next challenges for both CeFi and DeFi at this incredibly opportune time to discuss this. And second, to be here with these guys who, in many ways, kind of spearheaded the overcoming of the initial challenges that we saw in DeFi. So excited to be here. Thank you for organizing, and looking forward to the chat.
That is very, very kind to hear, Sam, and I'm excited as well. Kevin, would you like to take it over as well?
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Kevin. I'm a co-founder at Linear Finance. Linear Finance is a decentralized synthetic asset exchange. So for users can come on to our protocol, stake our native token, generate a stable coin, and subsequently trade synthetic assets. Right now, we have about 17 assets on the exchange, composing of crypto commodities and crypto indices. Soon there will be stocks and ETFs that will be available. We originally built on Ethereum, and now we're on Binance Smart Chain. So our transactions are not only fast, but extremely cost efficient. So I'm actually very excited to be here with you guys. And thank you very much for hosting me.
Amazing. Very good words. And also we have my good Polish friend, Rafał Głębiewski. How's it going, Rafał? Could you introduce yourself to the audience very quickly?
Hello everyone. Thank you very much for this invitation. So very shortly, I represent Elavon. I'm heading Elavon small medium business and banking business across Europe. Elavon is the part of the US bank. We are the company specialized in the payment services. So to translate this to some simple words, when you pay with card and you see the POS terminal, or you pay on e-com or any other type of the channels, we are supporting customers with such services to process payment.
That is very, very nicely said. And I've known Rafał for many years in the past, and that's why I'm also even more excited to be actually having this very intriguing show and panel discussion about decentralized finance versus centralized finance. So if you are ready, I think we should get it going and start off by discussing what challenges of the global finance, both on the centralized and decentralized side, can we expect right now? Like the regular people, they just wake up after this pandemic. The countries are trying to bring some ease, perhaps after the vaccination started and everything. Some economic overall awakening, perhaps reawakening. So what challenges could we expect as normal people on a daily perspective? And shall we start with Kevin?
Yeah, I think right now, I think DeFi's gotten to a certain point where a lot of the protocols have built out core functions of the financial services industry. And people have spent a lot of time building out the tech behind it. But unfortunately, I think we still have a long ways to go to actually reach mass adoption. And primarily of that is because of just the interfaces and just how we touch points to regular users of financial services, right? So if we think about people that are beyond crypto nerds in general, how do we touch the normal people that that are not familiar with digital assets? And I think there's a lot of challenges to not only reach them, but also to educate them, to actually get them into DeFi if possible.
Okay. It definitely just brings some difficulties. Decentralized finance, DeFi, as a whole, from my personal point of view as a trader and as a user, I use staking for interest. I use the liquidity mining. I haven't actually used lending services so far, but this is something definitely for me to reconsider. But as a regular person, let's say, who have never approached, let's say, DeFi just yet, like this is quite some barrier. This is quite some tech barrier that they need to tackle. So Leo, how would you say people can actually just get to DeFi easily?
Yeah, so I think the UI piece that Kevin touched on is definitely one that is super valid right now. I don't know if any of you here have tried teaching any non-crypto friends to onboard. It's quite an experience. I tried this a few months ago before the ETH run up, and even then it was like $200. He's like, "Did you just spend $200 showing me this?" Well, yeah, I did, but whatever. I'm trying to teach them something. And it's like, at least that's on Ethereum, which is, I think, why we're increasingly seeing people seeking out other alternatives. So I think one is kind of the sticker shock, the idea that this is supposed to be cheap and easy to use. And it was before all this run up happened with gas congestion, back in my day when gas was like 10 gwei or whatever you want to call it, like back then. And Ethereum's much cheaper. And so that's different. But I think because of that, though, folks are moving to other chains, and other chains are making it possible. So Phantom's really cheap right now. Avalanche is a little bit more expensive. Binance Smart Chain's, also fairly affordable. So I think that's one thing. But I think in order for users to really actually be able to access DeFi, really the next 100 million users or so isn't going to come from people installing MetaMask and figuring it out. It's going to be people that have like easy to onboard type experiences. I think the first of this we're seeing is in the Dharma app, which I think is mostly only available in the United States right now. But the idea that for most users, they don't really care if it's their Facebook stock, US dollars, anything else backing their Apple payment on their or Apple Android Pay. It could even be Bitcoin, Ethereum, it could be anything of value. So I think for normal people to kind of to participate in DeFi, that doesn't mean that they have to actually get into the nitty gritty of interacting with a smart contract. I think most of the people touching DeFi soon will be those touching it through something that doesn't actually require them to physically launch and approve smart contracts and through MetaMask. But most of us early folks think of that as this norm, and that needs to change.
Okay, but the question to Rafael then, because we as normal people, again, just like a regular person just walks out of home, right? And they just want to go and purchase, or just again, like make some financial transactions, do something about their finance, right? Be it purchase something, be it just lend, or not even lend it, but just even put it on interest in their bank accounts, in the saving bank accounts. Like decentralized finance seems so far, much better adopted, right, than DeFi. So how would you say, Rafael, on your end, from the Elavon's point of view, perhaps, like the overall adoption looks like, let's say, in the poorer countries? Can you see any trends, any tendencies that speak in favor of centralized finance?
Thank you, Adrian. You asked 5 questions in one. Let me try to answer.
Sorry about that.
But few comments. Maybe connected with the previous COVID context. Yeah, because of course above the fact that every generation believes that lives in a special time. But really COVID changed ourselves a lot. So. Mentioning about this context, because this is very much connected with different elements about the transformation in different sectors, acceleration in practice in this transformation. Of course, different part of the societies, they have still different requirements. Older part of the society, of course, do not absorb, let's say, innovation same level. They want to track in the traditional way. But let's say majority of the population societies, they are moving, let's say, themselves, we call it DIY and DIT environment. You are familiar with it, I believe, but generally that's about the new let's say, type of the preferences of the customers, the way they want to interact. Now, you mentioned about the poor countries, maybe richer countries. That's paradoxically, giving a very interesting, let's say, insight, because when you see, let's say, some developed countries across Europe, very much developed for many, many years with different type of the technologies solution, paradoxically, they built very big legacy, which sometimes objectively, because different reasons, because investment required, customers, let's say, behaviors, other elements, they have more, let's say, or longer way to transform themselves, because all of these elements needs to be somehow, let's say, balance, thinking about the way they are going to transform. Some poor countries, let's call them differently, some developed countries, or maybe some emerging countries. Yeah, these countries, they can build everything from the scratch very often, and they are jumping to the absolutely, let's say, first-class technology, most developed technologies, avoiding some, let's say, phases experienced by developed countries. So when you see the Czechs, very popular in US still, yeah, some countries never experienced this. When you see China, which jumped to the absolutely new environment, which is WeChat, yeah, they never experienced, or they massively, they didn't experience massively any type of the infrastructure of the terminals to accept the cards, a traditional solution, traditional card payments, So all of these elements, especially in the COVID context, which is accelerating the changes, especially motivating more financial institution, which is not just optional. Yeah, they had to adjust themselves to the new reality. If you want to make a business, you need to move a big part of your business to online interaction. Yeah, plus this broader environment, thinking about the let's say specific economies or geographies and their backgrounds, showing us that even we see some globalization, some countries are ahead of others, yeah, thinking about their transformation. Sorry for this long speech, guys.
No. That's very intriguing to actually be hearing that. Perhaps Leo, just one more time, could you perhaps like tell and reveal if those what Rafa discussed, those are the same trends that you see on the decentralized side?
I mean, I think there's the kind of idealistic view of this, which is that much similar to rural parts of India who didn't get the landline services, it just jumped straight to cell phone services. It's kind of that, I think, allowing for financial services to be affordable and accessible to anybody with a handset and internet accessibility. That's pretty powerful. Now, when we get to the reality of the thing, like how much of that is actually happening, right? Because a lot of people say that, but we don't know how much of it actually is happening. And with the gas prices I mentioned earlier on Ethereum is cost prohibitive, which I think does open up opportunities in DeFi anyway for other folks to get in. But that still doesn't do away with kind of, as Rafa talked about earlier, having to have some of the like I said, lesser developed economic conditions and places in the world try to catch up through the exact same process. So I think the same impediments would exist in not having a accessible, useful, easy to understand front end. Although on the other hand, the allure of interest rates above the current market rate in financial markets would certainly be plenty of incentive for people to go ahead and adopt a new thing. So when I think about talking to my friends that are like, look, you lock your money up for a year, you might get 0.5%. I kind of laugh at that. And I'm like, okay, well, how about you get 15-second compounding and then you get like 15, 17, 30% APY. And it sounds scammy, but you're welcome to come check it out or not. So I think in order to get this adoption globally, not only do we have to overcome this UI thing, also have to overcome accessibility for the lowest kind of common denominator in terms of hardware requirements and network bandwidth and accessibility from that front.
That is very, very right what you said, Leo. And Sam, how would you actually say that can be achieved?
Well, to step back for 1 second, I mean, to kind of for new kind of crypto entrants, I always tell them to take it slow, right? Start with the more centralized versions of it. Initially Coinbase was kind of the initial on-ramp, but now we're seeing it from whether it's Robinhood or PayPal. And I'm obviously speaking from a US perspective because that's where I sit right now. Having said that, now we've seen this progression of going from, let's say, PayPal, Robinhood to Coinbase, to eventually making their way to MetaMask and still primarily using it just to buy tokens and storing it. Now, there's a big, hurdle you have to make into DeFi, and what I'm seeing from my friends and my network is that the returns that they're getting, the APYs, the interest yields, etc., are so attractive that they're willing to take that leap. But what I always caution them is to start small, right? Like really understand what this all means, because it is complicated. especially once you start getting into providing liquidity and farming, etc. So I think we have an interesting bridge that's already formed from the centralized world over to DeFi, and now it's just a matter of getting them trained, onboarded, and being a community and welcoming them to the community, introducing it to them. So that's my take on that. And sorry, what was the question earlier?
Yeah, so the question that actually followed by what Leo said, was how we can actually achieve this state of the adoption, for the DeFi, that it would make it easy for the people to use that, right, versus the centralized parts.
Yeah, I mean, for the new entrants, I think we've already kind of set that course. For the kind of larger, more sophisticated investors, I think it's about painting, a picture of risk management. I think we've done a lot of great things in creating utility, from lending, from synthetics, payments. I mean, we've achieved a lot in that regard. What we next need to do, I think, is getting the larger institutional investors on board into DeFi. And what the missing gap there is giving them the risk management tools, the ability to understand both the systemic risk that's built into the system, as well as kind of isolated risk that we also have. So I think that's an area that I'd like to see some improvement, and I think we can then really see significant growth in our industry.
Okay, so as you may or may not know, quite in recent months there have been a lot of implementations on the PayPal side. Right, the PayPal actually just introduced cryptocurrencies to be able to be popularly and widely accepted within the PayPal ecosystem, let's say. And my question to Rafa perhaps would be: do you somehow work or connect with PayPal on those terms? Like, does it help? Do you think, Rafa, does it really help to bridge the centralized and decentralized world?
Good question, and little provocative question, I would say, because if you see the background of PayPal, they jumped in practice to the banking, business in US, starting in US, jumping to the bank value chain. Of course, today the question is not if, but how to partner with the specific, let's say, new players or another players. We do not partner now in Europe with, of course, on some stage, thinking about the type of the solution, payment solution we offer to the customers, absolutely yes. Because customer experience, the principle is, we are not deciding in practice what type of the products or services can be provided. Of course, still remembering that we can support, let's say, majority of the product which are, let's say, regulated and controlled, because we are acting as a banking institution. Yeah, so but PayPal, absolutely, when you see the e-com transaction, we need to have a PayPal services, to process the transaction. Otherwise, we cannot be competitive. Yeah, thinking broadly about the new features PayPal, let's say, applied. Don't know, to be honest, need to double check, but if some type of the services we observe starting to be standard of, let's say, new standards established for the specific, let's say, type of the services, the question will be not if, but how to follow. Yeah, of course, there are some different elements. We know that Europe is very much regulated. Yeah, it's very much regulated. We have, let's say, different acts, defining how Europe can operate. For the US roots organization, we have another regulation coming from US. So we have two regulators in practice defining the way we can do the business. So on our side, of course, we are extremely open, thinking about the new way of, let's say, payments or transacting or this type of elements, but we need to somehow accommodate this to the existing environment, follow the rules. Changing rules, but follow the rules.
Okay, so what does actually, because as far as I know, 11 actually never accepted any cryptocurrency solutions, payments so far. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what are the main kind of like struggles? Did you ever guys talk about it in Elavon to ever accept cryptocurrencies?
Especially for the last 2 months, I don't know, but this is extremely hot topic. Maybe because there are big advertisements on the London buses, showing the crypto,
Exactly.
but it's starting to be very hot topic because not depreciating crypto, but for many years it was let's say type of the Yeti story. Yeah, all of the people were talking about this, nobody saw it. Yeah, and now it is absolutely on the top. For me, more interesting is because I'm not titled to make a decision if this or different type of the product represent this or different level of attractiveness. That's for the customers to decide. Yeah. Then my role is more if the specific, let's say, situation, I don't want to repeat myself, from the regulatory perspective, all of these elements allowing me to follow. Because very often it is not about if, but how. Yeah. To follow specific products. But we see that governments, in different geographies, they are jumping to the digital currency conversation. Yeah. So this is very dynamic environment. And my expectation is that it will be very rapidly, let's say, develop conversation. Yeah. So something what is not obvious today, I will not be very much surprised will be, let's say, on the agenda tomorrow.
Okay. There's definitely some hope from your words for those cryptocurrency believers who are actually watching us. But here's a question to Kevin. Knowing and accounting what Rafael shared and what other guests shared today, how can we, let's say, find this bridge, this connection between the centralized and the decentralized world? You as a synthetic, instruments exchange, the centralized exchange kind of like just have kind of like a bit different features trading wise than what centralized finance usually offers, right? Like Binance or any other competitor to Binance, FTX. But this central kind of like a layer of management, at times plays the very important role against market manipulation, right? Against just people putting their entire capital at risk. So are there any plans for linear finance on how to actually bridge this centralized approach, the control that people can have, with the decentralized features that linear exchange would have?
Yeah, I think this is something that Linear and a lot of the other protocols kind of sort of struggle with, because we talk about DeFi and CeFi and which is good and which is great, but at the end of the day, even if you are a decentralized protocol, there at some points in time things are centralized, right? There's only ways that we can derive value from and a lot of the value of DeFi protocols is from centralized, either USD, things go back to USDT, and that's where you get value, or you get value off your tokens, and those go on to exchanges, right? Like Binance, which is centralized, right? So we can't ever really say, hey, we're 100% fully decentralized, because at the end of the day, then you really won't be able to get value from your protocol, right? And so for us, I think there's certain elements that we control from a centralized perspective, things like with liquidations and as such. And we do that obviously for the user experience, to make sure that things run smoothly in that type of aspect. We can always decentralize things like what type of assets that we're choosing, how to control different parts of the protocol. But at the end of the day, for us to kind of maintain a certain level of a certain level of standards in terms of user experience, I think there's some points, some parts of the protocol need to be centralized and need to be managed by the protocol itself, rather than just purely decentralized within the community.
Okay. I mean, there like there always has to be somebody to manage that somehow at one point, right? Because if anything, if everything just screws up at one point, right, and who's going to be there to fix that? Let's say, right? There's always needs to be some control. That's what I mean. So speaking of actually, more of the adoption terms, we briefly touched upon the adoption, the challenges, right? The fact of the lack of the overall, maybe not lack, but just the overall bridge between the centralized and decentralized world being not optimal, perhaps, just as of now. Then, speaking of the adoption, we have to always respect the timing. So the question to some of Umbrella Network is, are we ready for the federal adoption of DeFi?
So I think we're getting there. We're not there yet, right? I mean, most of the world's activity, most of the data, all the financial activity happens in the centralized world, right? And in DeFi, but we're mirroring it with our own twist, right, in a very decentralized way. But what we're missing in DeFi is that we don't have access to all of the rich data that's available in the centralized exchange world, let alone being able to bridge that gap, that data between the two worlds in a secure way. And I think once, right now, if you look at the amount of data that's provided for protocols, it's fairly small, right? It's a very limited data set, and they're updated pretty infrequently. They're stale data, whereas in the centralized world, they're operating at microseconds, cutting off every possible millisecond possible in order to improve efficiency. We need to bridge those two, where DeFi can then finally access all of that whole wealth of data that's out there in terms of trading activity, in terms of asset valuations, and name it, right? Everything from weather to sports, whatever it may be. We need to have access to that data. And I think we're getting there. There's been an explosion in the number of oracles out there, including ourselves, where there's going to be a lot of innovation. We're starting to address different needs, specific needs of DeFi applications. And so I'm excited to see where this goes in the near future. And I think the amount of data that's going to be available in DeFi is going to grow exponentially as a result. And so, yeah, I think we're at the cusp of it right now, and we're going to see it take off in real soon.
Okay. It's actually funny that Rafael mentioned, the crypto advertisements on the buses, because it also somehow automatically just approves the stage of the market that we are at. And we are, well, at least, I would say, not early. In my personal view, we are quite late phase. Usually, the mainstream, like just the buses, the radio stations, the media, TV, the newspapers, they usually end up knowing about things in the last kind of like row, right? So knowing that we may be late, and that there may be some market top coming, is this really the right time to pay more attention to the decentralized world, to the cryptocurrency world? And this is a question to Rafael. Is this the right time for you?
I would say this is difficult to answer in the simple words, because it can be very much subjective view, because we have our own business aspiration and different perceptions. So from my perspective, this is more to understand, let's say, who is or who can benefit from this the most. Yeah, which parts are critical for more dynamic development in this sector. I remember, Adrian, our conversation, you provided very good example of the Portuguese government. As a government which tries to understand, let's say, crypto, not treating crypto as a risk, but more as an opportunity. Yeah, how to accommodate crypto to the existing environment and which way, not how to avoid this or just to control it. So what I believe that this process will be influenced by different parties. Of course, by the users expecting, this or different level of services through this or different channels, trying to pay with it, not just trading on this, but more, let's say, using this as a payment methods. We will see, let's say, companies seeing this as a benefit, being able to commercialize it. And we should see the regulatory. Regulatory, back to our conversation about the digital currency. If we understand what are the key motivators for the regulatories, we need to remember that, of course, above the fiscal element, to see, let's say, the flow of the transaction and control it to tax, let's say, the users, very often this is about the simple cost of the traditional method of payments, non-digital method of payments. So seeing all of these parties in the scope, in the circle, I would say these parties will be key. I don't know who will influence the most. European geography is very fragmented. To cover European geographies, even you have an EU zone, you need to have an agreement of a big number of countries. When you say the big geographies like US, this is in practice one regulatory decision, or China or other bigger geographies, But as I said, some conversation I observed today, I never experienced 12 months ago. So as I said, it will be dynamic.
Okay, that answer is definitely kind of like what I expected, because it's definitely quite a tricky situation, quite a tricky, just attempt for many centralized companies, especially such big companies as 11. But let's say, like I mentioned, the PayPal, Elon Musk recently actually just introduced, what was that, back in March, in February, I believe, or even earlier. They introduced in Tesla, that they started accepting cryptocurrencies very recently, because last week they actually, Elon Musk said that they suspended the cryptocurrency acceptance for the payments for the Tesla trucks and whatnot. So the markets reacted badly to that, of course. But speaking of the control, and this is going to be the question to Leo. Speaking of control, knowing that there is, let's say, so much control or so much effect coming from just one single Elon Musk's tweet, right? Is this something that can be really healed, improved, because of using and applying the centralized part? Isn't it that crypto is too much centralized right now?
So I think I agree with that question direction partially. Your point is well taken that when one individual like Elon Musk, though Elon Musk is very intelligent and accomplished, one human being is your point that can single-handedly shake the market. Now, I think that's true, but just by him, ironically, it doesn't prove any centralization because he doesn't physically, as far as I know anyway, control any hashing power or any protocols or any votes to that effect. I think what this points to is more about the dependence of today's financial market, broadly speaking, to the policies and decisions and the economies of the United States. Now, that, as well as a regulatory kind of direction that the United States may take. Janet Yellen had a comment that caused people to say, oh my God, long-term cap gains, what am I going to do about that? I think broadly speaking, related to the earlier question about regulatory compliance and where that goes, eventually this industry has to merge with the main financial industry for this to work. There's no way that any nation state would forego its power of understanding where money flow is going. And in many ways, actually having financial transaction on the blockchain is much better for control, considering that then this stuff is indefinitely on chain as long as the interwebs stays around. So that's interesting there. But I think it is incumbent on us, the industry and DeFi, to start working more closely with the regulatory compliance rather than trying to avoid away from it. What you'll see is that there are a lot more project founders coming up being anonymous because the risks are high working in this industry, because maybe you're violating some rules here and there. You don't have any idea who's in charge where in the United States yet. And I think soon that should be clarified. And once that is, hopefully the industry will be better off, better served, and have better clarity as to where it can and cannot go. I know that within the lending sector anyway, we've been working with, I know this is not something we've announced anywhere, but we've been working with a very large stablecoin project on looking at how to address their institutional yield needs. By that, I mean whitelisted KYC addresses, so that it's some 0x some number, but really that number is tied to some particular fund that has hundreds of millions of dollars. And then when that money comes in, then how do we have these processes by which controls can be put in place to reduce the risk of loss? And also by limiting all these things, the opportunity for yield is lower, thereby the expected APY would be lower for these institutional depositors. And by lower, I mean like 3 to 5%, which is still 10x more than what exists today in the current marketplace.
Okay, but isn't it kind of like still, the fact that Elon Musk again is of course not directly selling, right? I kind of like just caught the point of Elon Musk, because we know that he's, well, at least to the best of our knowledge, that he's not like one of the insane whales in the market, the person who manipulates and controls it really. Although we of course know that there are many trading algos and bots which actually just scan for Elon Musk's threads and tweets to search for any AI-based recognition for his bearishness or bullishness and yada yada whatever. But isn't it still like with having so much of the hashing power, like the mining the entire mines that we have over in China, right? That are like very thoroughly centralized to some exchange. Isn't it still too much control in the hands of a very, very selected, individuals, let's say, or the companies? Sam, what do you think about that?
I think that's just. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I can respond after you.
Oh, I was going to say, look, I came here looking for financial freedom for all. I came here looking to build the decentralization and all that. And, what I realized is that the financial market's the financial market, man. That's just how it is. Like, it's no different than a poker game. People playing with the big stacks, they're going to push you all in because they can, because that's how they win. They're going to throw their weight around. This is not unique to crypto. It's not unique to traditional markets. I mean, sure, we're unregulated and there's some things there, but I find that there's still a lot more transparency. I mean, if you look at Cream, you can go to our app.cream.finance/markets. You see our entire balance sheet. It's right there. I mean, any bank you go to today, hey, can I see what your balance sheet looks like right at this moment? I mean, not only are they going to just basically tell you to GTFO, they don't have that information. So I think that the kind of uncertainties involved in here, it's just a sign of how early we are in the industry. It's not actually having to do with the fact that the industry is broken or anything. It's just part of the growing pains.
Sam, would you agree or deny?
Yeah. But just to go back a second, where are we in the life cycle of crypto? I think we're still incredibly early, right? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to crypto prices and crypto activity tomorrow, next week, or the next month, but certainly in the long run, like we have far more growth to come. I look at my friends who are, at their stage in life, holders of pretty significant assets. And every week or month or so, one of them asks me about getting in, right? And so, probably 10% of my friends have dipped their toes into crypto at this point, and once they get in, they're in for good, right? They did get deeper and deeper. Take a look at the institutional side. Yeah, a lot of institutions have gotten into the crypto industry, but they barely dipped their toes in, right? They've got probably less than 1% of their assets under management in crypto for many of these, and there's more money to come. Capital inflows ultimately means a significant boost in the prices of these crypto assets, and so I'm incredibly excited about what's to come. I mean, if you look at like his chart of like Amazon from like 2001 when it crashed, you would think, oh my goodness, that what a terrible investment. Well, if you just held through that crash and hold it today, what was that return, right? Like, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I've seen that chart.
It's a lot.
And so, and I think we're kind of in that same situation. Like, yeah, the market will correct here and there. There'll be undue influence by people like Elon Musk, both on the up and the downside. But I know what the long-term trajectory of this is. And I'm really incredibly excited by it. And then to touch on the kind of the hashing power in China for Bitcoin, look, we're entering a multi-chain world. Not all chains are going to look the same. Some are less decentralized than others. Some are more centralized. But even at Bitcoin, as you mentioned, or even Binance Smart Chain, it's far more decentralized and far more secure to me than any centralized asset exchange or platform that I'm aware of. Where the CEO or the executive of a company or their board of directors really at the snap of a finger can make any decision they want. So I'm happy parking my assets here, and I think I have far more trust, or I would say trust in this trustless system, and then the next generation of protocols and chains that are coming out. I'm even more enthusiastic about many of those. So, I think we're early. We have a long ways to go, and if you look at the rapid growth of our industry and the technology penetration, it's been remarkable. I haven't seen anything like it in any other industry, whether it's mobile or the internet for that matter.
Okay, I mean, this is promising for what you shared. This is a lot of opium for all of those who are actually just suffering from the markets right now. So I guess this is going to be well accepted. But moving on slowly to our final section, the third part, because we discussed, briefly the challenges, the adoption perspectives, and attempts approaches. What's left now for us to discuss is the future, and we briefly also touched, and agreed, perhaps, or stated, our belief with regards to whether or not we are early, and whether or not, the future is bright. So my question to Kevin of Linear Finance is future bright for crypto?
Yeah, I obviously, I think we're all in crypto. We're quite bullish. So I do believe that, I reiterate what Sam has said, I'm also very excited about what we have going forward. I think this year has been quite, or this year and obviously the latter part of last year has been quite, I would say, transforming for the crypto world. I think from an institutional perspective, they finally get it, right? They realize that, we can invest in Bitcoin, obviously the oldest crypto that's been around, when it started it all. There's tons of, there's been billions of dollars of equipment and infrastructure that has been in place to go ahead and secure the network. It may not be the best way to go ahead and make payments, as it's not very fast, but hey, it's there where you can use it as a store of value. There's certain inherent trust now that we can put into digital assets. All right. And that would certainly flow into other types of infrastructure plays, obviously such as Ethereum, and then ultimately into DeFi. So I also think that we're really in the beginning of things right now. And we just have not seen the full adoption yet. And I think those will come with more people like PayPal taking crypto, other payment services, the advancement of digital wallets, people starting to actually being able to install things like MetaMask and understanding and trusting the infrastructure and the protocols itself. So I think we'll see as protocols get better, as one in terms of educating the users, making things so that, obviously if you type in the wrong address, you don't lose your funds, these types of things that make it easier for people to use and safer. And once they are able to build that trust, I think we'll see quite a larger amount of adoption, particularly for DeFi going forward.
Okay. I'm passing over this question as well to Rafael. Feel free to disagree, of course, and to deny, but is, in your opinion, future bright for crypto? You will need to unmute yourself first. There we
Okay,
go.
I was laughing later. I can translate this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I would say back to the previous comments that we are at the beginning of this way, but generally the nature of innovation is that when you see that the civilization, the history of the societies, it is not linear. Yeah, this is always, some sharp growth. This, if you remember the stream engine, and all of these key facts in the human history, we are exactly in the point that all of this digital technology changes, other changes, let's say, moving us years versus previous centuries. Yeah. So that's the first comment. I will not be surprised on crypto to be much more further, let's say, in the coming months, maximum years. Another element which can support this phase is customer experience is deciding. When you see crypto, crypto is for some time with us, evolving different way. Yeah. But still, let's say, alive, survive. Even different people, let's say, try to depreciate this because unregulated, because KYC and IML challenges. Now people rather think how to accommodate this properly, not if, but how. Yeah. Of course, there are some challenges, yeah, on the way. But as discussed previously, I believe it is not the question if, but how, and how quickly. Yeah, because customers' experience is above everything today. And all of the examples before on the PayPal, on the fintechs, different solution, new customer way of interaction, showing that when years ago somebody was very proud of him, having gold American Express card in the pocket. Today, young generation, they do not care. They are very much focused on the functionality, on some convenience, yeah, on the let's say freedom, let's call it, on the product, yeah, that they are not very much, let's say, restricted or strictly navigated, and the crypto, potentially answer this type of the needs. Back to my colleagues' examples, why they believe crypto is better controlled than traditional one. Yeah, different motivation from different parties, as I said, but I believe we are in different points. It is not more, let's say, type of testing. This is more of the implementation curve.
Nice. This is quite intriguing to hear that even the centralized world actually expresses their awareness that there is some adoption going on, right? That this is not just like stagnant. It's not been stagnant. It's been actually emerging, just like you mentioned. So the same question again. Feel free to disagree, of course, but the question to Sam: is future bright for crypto for the remaining years? Oh, wait a second. Yeah, you need to unmute yourself first.
I think the future is not only incredibly bright, but I think we're also incredibly early. And so there is so much growth to be had. If you just look at the user experience today, I mean, it's quite challenging, right? You use to self-custody and to actually engage with some of these DeFi applications. It's a complicated process. And let's face it, everybody has fallen into some sort of scam or one or another, right? It's part of it's almost part of the learning curve and like a badge of honor that you've been scammed or something. But if you rewind like to 2017, when I first got kind of heavily into crypto, we've come a long ways. It is the things that I can do today with my crypto, the usability of it, the sheer improvements of wallets, the mobile access, the 24/7 access that's readily at my fingertips today. These are all huge improvements, and I think we still have a long ways to go, and we're going to get there. And you're going to see this growth, this kind of UX, UI improvement happen rapidly in the near future. And so, yeah, I think we're early, and the future is incredibly bright. And I'm super bullish for the long term.
Sounds good. Same question to finalize and wrap this show up very briefly. Same question to Leo. Is future bright?
Yeah, I think so. I'm also along the line in agreement with Sam that we're early. I know I keep having to tell myself this because, if you look at it from 2017, it just feels like forever. And in reality, it's just not been that long. And just as we talked about earlier, a tweet from some influential person can shake the market like this. And a non-regulator, look, if a regulator says we're going to outlaw all of crypto, obviously that's going to make a huge impact. But someone who is an entrepreneur who's just well known in the space, who has a lot of followers social media wise, that's odd. But I think that's okay. I think that the efficiency. I think Rafael talked a little bit about parallels with history. I really do agree with the narrative that if we compare this technology, the blockchain, to the kind of Web 2 world when that launched 1999 or so, a lot of the store value discussion around crypto is largely like email back then. What was the internet? The internet was email. That's it. What else do you use it for? You can't do anything with it. And it wasn't even legal to transact commercially in the United States on the internet until 1997. So when you look at the trajectory, to think that the internet was not made for commerce was just like, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. But historically, that's the case. And I'm not saying that's where we are now, because clearly there's a lot of transactions going on now. But even from 2017 to now, when I look at these market pullbacks, I think about how back in 2017, your choice was, do you go from a small cap token back to Bitcoin or Ethereum? Or do you stay there? You're not going to sell back to US dollars. Today, we have a slew of options with stable coins. And, today we have an ability, which by the way, Adrian, you should totally give this thing a try. To me, like, friends that have crypto should just put it in lending services like Cream or the Iron Bank on yearn.fi/lend. Because when you do it that way, you could be long, short, you can leverage, you can tax optimize. There's just so much going on there. But tools like this, tools like the Oracle services that Sam's building, connecting real world, I think that's super awesome. It's not done yet. The job's not done yet. So far, you have two dominant players that are super dominant in the Oracle space. And I hope folks like Sam really make it and help me, maybe build a decentralized sports book or something is something I keep thinking about. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The stuff that Kevin's building right there in Linear, allowing users to effectively say, look, I want all my assets to be in one place. I can control all of it. I could take my Tesla stock. I could take my Bitcoin. I could take my Ethereum. And, if you're not actually using the voting rights, et cetera, a synthetic asset that tracks the pricing of your basket is perfectly good, especially one that has more or less infinite liquidity in the system that they built, which is pretty awesome. So I think that users already today have seen a huge improvement from where Ethereum was, 2-4 years ago. And that we've only begun this evolution with smarter and smarter people coming in the industry, with investments coming in, with time, with people, money, attention. And finally, mainstream media is accepting, crypto as a space, as a legitimate asset class. So yeah, I am super bullish. I think there's a lot coming. And I think that nobody can actually even predict what this looks like a year from now. We're moving so fast. But I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, it's very hard to actually predict what's about to happen a day after, not to mention the year after or decade after. That's definitely the harder to predict, the higher in the advancement for the technology we grow and it go as a civilization. That is another question. I really want to take this opportunity right now and actually remind to everybody, to all the viewers that we have via YouTube and Twitter, so that you guys make sure you subscribe, you leave some comments on, you leave a thumbs up if you enjoy those virtual Congress sessions that we all contribute to. This is quite an amazing opportunity to hear what the standpoints are from the centralized and decentralized sides with regards to cryptocurrencies, the adoption in the future. And I'm not sure. Rafael, stop me there if I cannot reveal too much. But tomorrow I'm scheduled to actually just go and do a short, quick pitch, in front of the management board, as far as I'm concerned, for at least for some region, for 11. right? So this may or may not mean we are going to gain a very, very big player in this space in some time in like named 11, right? In the crypto, we wouldn't mind that for sure. We wouldn't mind that for sure to have many big players and many big supporters for the crypto as we go and as we proceed. And
that's true, Adrian. And I would say same time this is the proof, but that I didn't expect this type of the request 12 months ago. That's something which is proving that overall, let's say, interest around this, let's say, topic growing rapidly. Yeah,
that is sign of the times, and where we are in the stage of the market for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, to all the viewers, thank you for tuning in for our show, and I want to take this opportunity as well, and on my behalf, on the behalf of the entire Birb Nest community and all the traders and all the viewers listening, I want to thank our amazing guests, Leo Cheng of Cream Finance, Kevin of Linear Finance, Lavon of Rafan Gołębiewski of Lavon, and Sam of Umbrella Network. Everybody, this has been my great pleasure hosting this very special panel discussion with you. Thank you for your generosity with your time and amazing experience. Thank you for that, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Goodbye.